that only this company, which someone in the government owns, only this company can produce a certain product. Let's say like, I don't know, cookies or microphones. You're going to get when you have monopolies, when you have involuntary monopolies where by violence, by threat, by coercion, you prevent any competition whatsoever, you're going to get bad science, you're going to get bad consumer products, and you're going to get very bad religion. And that's the history of the world. You're going to get hypocritical, bad religion. That is the result of fanaticism and trying to kill open, honest discussion and analysis in any field of life. And so, anyway, I hope it's okay to say all these things, but so this is not a criticism of any religion, because in every religion you'll find very good people, very sincere, godly people. And in every religion you'll find fanatical hypocrites. And so the real hope for the world is that the good people who are there in every religion, you'll find very good people, very sincere people, very God-conscious people in every religion. And those people have to cooperate, and those people have to discuss among themselves openly, with an open heart and open mind, and try to reasonably come to better understandings of things. It's not about giving up a religion. It's not about declaring this religion is true, that religion's false. It's just about all the good people of the world, all the God-conscious people of the world, opening their hearts and minds and talking to each other, so that we can all come to the best possible understanding. Anyway, I hope I didn't get myself in trouble by saying all these things, but any questions?
How do you define religion?
Religion?
What is it?
Oh, hey, it's God. Well, he's the right person, to ask that question. Probably for the rest of our lives I'll be making these jokes.
Start of a long friendship.
I would say that religion, for me, my understanding is, it is a body of knowledge and a practice. A practice and a body of knowledge, the goal of which is to understand the highest truth and to and to cultivate virtue. Yes.
What's the relationship between practice and the knowledge?
Well, for some people, there's very little relationship. Obviously, we should practice what we preach. Of course, some people don't preach, and don't practice, but it's like, for example, let's talk about the body, physical body. There is a certain body of knowledge. There's a certain body of knowledge about the health of the body. And there are certain practices, whether we're talking about, actual medical practice or just fitness or whatever. So we have knowledge of the body and knowledge of how to be healthy, and then practice. And so obviously, the more you know and the more you act on that knowledge, the healthier you'll be. So it's the same, whether it's the body or the soul, it's the same thing. The more you understand about yourself and the more you put that knowledge into practice, the better your life will be. The bad thing is, hypocrisy is kind of an ugly thing. Think about it. And so, again, using religion as a weapon to oppress other people, to kill other people, to to try to enslave other people, either enslaving their bodies or enslaving their minds, frankly. In other words, we should just present what we've got. Like, this is what I know, this is what I think is good, and you are a free soul, and you make your own choice. People shouldn't choose a particular spiritual path because someone else is just harassing them. They should choose a spiritual, or threatening them, or but people should choose a spiritual path because in their heart and in their brain, they feel that this is what's best. Yes.
There is a quite famous TV interview. One Muslim woman just said that that the majority, usually they are the less dominant. The fanatic people, they are dominant, even they are less percent. So about what you said about religion, this is usually the majority of people, they're less dominant.
Yes.
So my question is, I don't know exactly what's the question, but...
Well, in America, spirituality is just another consumer product in the sense that you shop around, I'll take 3 of these, 7 of those, and maybe 1 of those. And so, yeah, America is very... But other parts of the world are different.
So, how can it be possible that if they said that in every religion the majority of people who are good people, and the fanatics, they are less percent, but still they are the more dominating.
Yeah, I would.
They are more quiet. They're afraid of them.
At different times in history, you can get religious communities or communities that share a certain religion where a lot of the people are fanatical. It's not always the case, and it's not always not the case. So I would say history does not show that. For example, if you look at certain times in European history, I would say that probably most people, or I would say very few people, thought it was a great idea to have complete religious freedom. And there are certain parts of the world, some of them not too far away, where over 90% of the people feel that if you change your religion, you should be killed. Over 90% of the people. So it's, where is this coming from? I'll tell you where it's coming from. There's actually an internal logic. There's actually an internal logic to this, and the logic is valid if you make just a few simple, monstrous assumptions. The first assumption is that God is a psychopath. I mean, you don't say that, but that's what it amounts to. God is a psychopath. So that if you join the wrong religion, God will torture you, send you to hell forever. I mean, forever is a very long time. I mean, imagine having a child. Imagine your child being in pain and screaming, crying out to the mother or the father for help. And the supreme loving Father can hear those screams and those cries for millions and billions of years and never help the child because billions of years ago, in an infinitesimal little human life, you joined the wrong church. And you actually believed in me and tried to serve me, but wrong church. If and this is not just about one religion and another, if the God of the fanatics, if the God of certain fanatics, if God was really like that, God would be the most evil being ever conceived of by a human mind. God would be the most evil being ever conceived by a human mind, which is interesting because the famous, ontological argument for the existence of God given by Anselm in the High Middle Ages, he said, God is that being than whom no greater being can be conceived. And if you say God doesn't exist, I can imagine a greater God, one who doesn't exist. It's a It's kind of a logical trick rather than a really convincing argument. But that was his idea. His idea, and that was Rupa Goswami's idea. Actually, Rupa Goswami has his own version of that argument, by the way. The idea was that because God is infinitely great, here's the argument basically. God is infinitely great. Therefore, the greatest conception of God is closest to the truth. It's like if you have an infinite number, then the highest finite number is, in a sense, going toward infinity. So the idea here is that if the greatest being imaginable is God, how could the most evil being imaginable be God? And I will give you 10 seconds here. If you can think of a more evil being, we'll give you a free cookie. But the point is, try to imagine something more evil than torturing your own children forever just because they slightly misunderstood you. And what's more evil than that? But now let's say you believe that evil assumption. It's not just wrong, it's evil. So let's say you believe that. It's evil because it shows God as being evil. It's evil to say that God is evil. So let's say that you believe that. Now, if someone's a false preacher, in other words, preaching the wrong religion, anyone who believes that false preaching will be tortured forever. Or something else similarly undesirable. So, therefore, you are morally required to stop that false preacher. You warn the person. If they don't stop, you kill them. For example, let's say, God forbid, like in America sometimes, someone goes to a school and starts shooting people. Now, when the police come, they're just going to stop that person. Their first concern is not, no, just shoot him in the leg, don't hurt him. Someone is in a school shooting children, you take the person down, you get rid of the person, and you do it as quickly as you can. And, frankly, you shoot to kill. So, in that way, if you really believe that anyone that listens to this preacher is going to suffer the most horrible possible suffering, it is your moral duty to remove that preacher from society. And even if someone leaves their religion, they also have to be killed. Why? Because it's a bad example. Bad examples should be punished with death. Because if other people follow that example, anyone that follows that example will suffer the most horrible consequences. Therefore, it is morally required of you to kill that person. Now, it's interesting because actually, Paul, who became Paul of the New Testament, was doing that. He was killing followers of Jesus. It's mentioned in the New Testament. The first martyr after Jesus was a Greek-speaking Jew called Stephen, and he was arrested for, following Jesus, or he was stoned to death. I don't even know if he was arrested. I think some people it was a vigilante mob, and they stoned him to death, and Paul was one of the people organizing the event, which tells you something about, frankly, his psychology. So, but the point here is that it is perfectly logical to religious fanatics to do evil things because they begin with an evil assumption. And we should remember that in logic, an argument may be valid but not true. A valid argument is simply an argument in which there is a properly logical relationship between the premises and the conclusion. For example, here's a valid but an untrue argument that all horses have wings. Turtles are horses. Therefore, all turtles have wings. That's actually a valid argument, although it's ridiculously false. It's obviously not true, but the relationship, but it's a false argument. It's untrue. So there's an internal logic in religious fanaticism. The problem, the obvious the obvious flaw, the obvious mistake in all forms of religious fanaticism, the obvious mistake is that it's based on assuming that God is a jerk or God is evil. If you start with the assumption that God is infinitely loving and infinitely good, then what would a loving, good parent do with children that love the parent in different ways? Kill them? So again, it's
Is there anything can be done with fanaticism?
massive amounts of prasadam. People have to eat so much prasadam they can't think. All we can do is our best. As intelligently, as sincerely as we can, we have to explain the truth to people in ways that are appropriate to the time and place and circumstances, of course. What else can we do? We're not God. We just try our best. Because again, the solution is knowledge. People need knowledge, and so in ways that are appropriate to our time, place, and circumstances, we have to simply try to teach. That's our duty. Yes.
Can we present Krishna consciousness knowledge in such a universal way that people will accept it in any denomination?
Some people. Will everyone accept it in every denomination and religion?
No, we should kind of...
It's like a balance, because it's a trade-off. Because, when you give something there, you add something here, you lose something there. So, Krishna consciousness is universal, first of all, just because it's true. But secondly, so there's different meanings of the word universal. Universal can mean, say something that everybody can agree with. So in that sense, we're talking not about a universal truth, but a universal agreement. So that's a subjective definition of universal knowledge. In other words, it means that everyone agrees with it. And then there's another kind of universal knowledge, which is universal because it's true everywhere, but everyone may not agree to it. And therefore, it's objectively universal, but not subjectively universal. So now, the trade-off, it's like the more we kind of, let's say, don't talk about the specific things that a lot of people may not accept, but just stress the universal things like, love God and be a good person. Like Jesus said. He really nailed it. Love your neighbor as yourself and love God with all your heart, soul, and might. So what we gain by that is more people can identify. What we lose by that is the advanced knowledge we have. And so it's a question of, do you want to shoot for the top of the pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid? Where do you want to aim at? And at what point do you start to become something else? At what point are you simply translating things? I think we have to do both, to answer the question. I think we have to do both in the sense that we obviously have to preserve and communicate to appropriate audiences the highest knowledge. At the same time, we have to explain things that are more easily understandable, more subjectively universal to people in general. For example, take physics. There is a level of physics which a relatively small number of people in the world can understand. And then there's, let's just say math, like, physics, algebra, everything. And then there's other kinds of math or algebra or even physics, which, an ordinary high school student who's not on heavy drugs can understand. So the point is, if you look at any society, you have to teach the math that everyone can understand, but you also need universities and advanced institutes where people who want to know the most advanced knowledge of math or physics can also get it. So I think we have to do both. We have to, there's different levels of education. And we have to keep them in the right order. Yes?
Maharaj, I want to ask about the relationship
Yes. I guess in modern terms it would be the client and the provider. The service provider. Yes.
So if there are many paths or many religions to understand the self, or self-realization, and let's say the disciple of the soul makes advancement in, let's say, Jesus consciousness, next life, maybe, Indian, or maybe with Shiva, and then, carries on, makes more advancement, self-realization, then comes to Krishna, makes more advancement. So in each way, in each tradition or each practice, he had a guru. So if that soul goes back to the spiritual world, what happens to the relationship between that soul and all of the other gurus he has?
Well, I guess he still has to send them a Hanukkah card. First of all, regarding gurus and students, or teachers and students, spiritual teachers and students, the relationship is eternal when one receives, you could say, concluding knowledge. And so it's not that every teacher-student relationship is eternal, which is not really, we don't find that claim in any of our books, that a teacher-student relationship is necessarily eternal. But in certain cases, if the highest knowledge is given, then yes. Or even, let's say, if someone's a student of Jesus, because it's interesting, in Christianity, often Christians refer to themselves as disciples, but disciples of Jesus. I don't think they would say, I'm disciples of my local priest, or even the bishop. So they're disciples of Christ. That's the language they use. And so, assuming that Christ, great soul, has achieved enlightenment, and if they're very attached to Jesus, then they can go on studying with him. Or other teachers, so it depends on the circumstances.
So there's one guru for the soul that he's eternally serving him?
Interesting question. First of all, it's interesting to note that all these topics are not discussed in the Bhagavatam or the Gita. That's the first interesting point. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, so what is in the Gita that we can apply here? Krishna says that I reciprocate with every soul. In other words, as you approach God, and approaching a representative of God is approaching God, then Krishna reciprocates. And he also says that yang tanum bhakta shadhayarchitum ihate, whatever form of divinity or spirituality you begin to follow or honor or worship, Krishna says, tasya chalang shadham tameva vidhamya, I make your faith strong in that. And actually the benefits are coming from me. And so if you think of that reciprocity in the universe, then if you are very, very devoted to a particular spiritual teacher, then you will stay with that spiritual teacher. And you can advance as far as that teacher is advanced, in a sense. It's like, let's say you stay with a music teacher, you can, or a history teacher, you can learn as much as your teacher knows. At a certain point, and so if that teacher knows everything, then you're fine. If not, then you either stay at that level or you move on to a more advanced course. So it also depends on the will and the intention of the student, because there's the principle of freedom. The principles really here are freedom, reciprocation. Those are the operating principles here. Yes.
Yeah, behind the Tulasi.
That'll be a spiritual name, behind Tulsi.
I want you to clarify, if you can, you said that if we need something, it can tell us that this thing really exists.
Often does. It often does.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, I come from an atheist background.
That's okay.
And the main idea is that I was always told that people wanted the faith, wanted to believe in something. That's why they created God.
Okay. Actually, thank you very much. Krishna made you ask that question because there was something else I wanted to say about this, and you reminded me. So I'll answer your question. And what's very interesting is, and very, with all due respect, idiotic, is that people think that religious people have faith. The obvious fact is, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, is that everyone has faith. For example, if you're an atheist, you believe there's no God. You don't know there's no God, because as I say, if there's no God, no one knows everything, and therefore no one knows if there's no God or not. If there's no God, who knows? Then no one knows, because no one knows everything. So therefore, to be an atheism, English. To be an atheist is just as much faith as to be a theist. There's no difference in the amount of faith. It's just the object of the faith. Therefore, Krishna says, oh my God, I'm not that rusty. Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati. Sarvasya Swanurupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati Bharata. That faith arises in everyone according to their nature. So if we believe something because we just want to believe it, it would follow logically and necessarily, just according to the rules of logic, that you're an atheist because you need to believe that. And actually, if you think, okay, if I believe in God, there are certain payoffs, there are certain benefits, like, okay, I think I'm going to be saved, I think someone's watching over me, but let's look at the payoff, the benefits of atheism. No one in the universe is greater than me. So if you're a self-centered person and you want to go just be completely self-centered and egotistical, atheism is a great option for you. And so we can see all the different ways in which atheism fulfills a psychological need. And so as they say in English, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You know, gander is a male goose. How do you say it in Hebrew? Yeah, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They also say the pot calls the kettle black. The kettle is like the thing you cook in. And this expression is an old expression from hundreds of years ago when they used to cook in these black iron things. So they say the pot calls the kettle black, because obviously the pot is black too. So the idea here is that if you make the argument that we believe something because we, for psychological reasons, then that would also apply to atheism.
Okay, still it doesn't mean that God exists.
No, but it means that what you were told a very bad argument.
Yeah, no.
That's what it means. It's a really bad argument. So as far as there's a certain advantage in theism, there's a certain philosophical advantage. By the way, there's a very interesting book written by a well-known sociologist in America showing that if you study religious people and non-religious people, just in a very simple, ordinary sense of religious, they go to church, they go to synagogue, they just believe in things. It turns out there's a long list of benefits in being religious. They tend to have better marriages, they tend to be healthier, less drug addiction. I mean, there's like a long list of objective benefits among religious people. But never mind. Someone may be masochistic and therefore, not want that. But the point is that from a philosophical point of view, if there is a God, hypothetically, if there is a God, then it follows logically that you can know that. It is possible to know that. Because if there's a God who, unlike certain conceptions, is not a psychopath and is not hiding from his own children forever because of some very strange psychology, let's say there's a God who's just like, a nice guy and not crazy. And therefore, the whole purpose of having children is so they can know you. Right? When you have a child, the greatest happiness for a father or mother is when you see your child growing and you see in the child's eyes or in the child's voice that the child is really coming to know you and to love you. And you're not just a machine that feeds and takes care of the child. The child's really starting to have that relationship with you. I mean, isn't it? I mean, that's the greatest happiness for a parent. And so God is the supreme parent. So if there is a God, then it is possible to know it. If there's not a God, it's not possible to know it. That's just logic. Because if there's not a God, how do you know there's no God? You're not God, and therefore how do you know it? But if there is a God, and if God is emotionally healthy and chooses to communicate with us, then we can know it. So in terms of, if you are considering two possible scientific experiments, and one of them, if your theory is correct, you can prove it's correct, and the other one, if your theory is correct, you cannot prove it's correct, which one do you do? Secondly, even if you're agnostic, which is more intellectually respectable, atheism is just kind of pretentious and silly. But if you're agnostic, and you just don't know, agnostic, by the way, from Sanskrit, agyani, someone that doesn't know. So if you're agnostic, and so God may exist, God may not exist. If God does exist and is emotionally healthy, then I win everything. I can get infinite benefit. And if God doesn't exist, then I just die and, game over. So therefore, what am I going to try to do? If you fall off a boat and the boat, keeps going, and you see, let's say another boat is coming, okay, if I signal to this boat, it may stop and save me, it may not stop and save me, therefore I won't signal. That is stupid. So if you try to find God, maybe you find God, maybe you don't, but it's your only hope. It's your only hope to exist, to really, to have everything good that you can imagine. So to say, this is the only real chance I can have a wonderful eternal life, but nah, I'd rather play golf. I'd rather have a beer. I'd rather, just do something. Why wouldn't you do it? It's obvious that the real psychological issue here is with the atheist. The real psychological issue is the atheist. Because to pursue something which promises, or at least possibly will give you everything good, to pursue that is normal for a healthy human being. If you run in a race, you may not win the race, but you try. If you apply to a university, you may not be admitted, but you apply. You try. You try to make the sale. You try to, if you fall in love with someone, you try to see if they can love you. So it is normal. Human beings who are healthy, sane, if there's a fantastic opportunity, and if without that opportunity you're going to have a fantastically bad experience, then you try for it. So if that's the case, if that's normal, healthy human psychology, it would take some special psychological factor to convince one not even to try, to find infinite beauty, infinite goodness, infinite, eternal life. And that special psychological factor is called envy of God. Basically, envy of anyone who's better than me or who might be better than me. Because I prefer to live in a psychologically sick world in which I'm the center of reality, everything revolves around me or my family. Self-centeredness. Self-centeredness is basically a type of functional but clinical insanity. Because it is obvious that we're not the center of reality. Does anyone here really think that you're the center even of the earth or the galaxy or anything other than your own existence?
It's a baby, I tried.
It's the what?
It's a baby, I tried. Close the eyes, no world. And when I open the eyes, there is Father. Close the eyes, no Father. I'm the center.
Yeah, it's an infantile psychology. So to be self-centered is to be really functionally insane. I mean, you can still function in the world with all the other crazy people, but it's a state of madness. And so you could say that from a philosophical point of view, to be self-centered is to be mad. And so to prefer madness, self-centeredness, over the only real hope you have to achieve infinite good. There's obvious. I mean, if you want to talk about who's got the weird psychology,
I know.
so yeah, we should go for it. Try it. And then people say, well, no. Another popular argument is it's called the problem of evil. That there can't be a God or there can't be a good God because there's so much suffering in the world. So that argument is based on a wrong assumption, actually. It's based on the assumption, it's based on the sort of a Middle Eastern metaphysics in which when we are born in this life, we were just created. We were just created. This is our first life, so therefore a God who values justice, how could someone be born in an abusive family or in a war zone or in terrible poverty and someone else is born with all facility? So believe that, but if you understand there's an eternal soul, there's karma and all that, then it turns out to be the case that actually we are experiencing the consequences of our own actions, and actually no one is ever actually injured. No one actually ever dies, because what is injured is the body. God puts us inside this virtual reality machine, and then you experience life as if you were sick, as if you were suffering. But that's only based on your believing that this machine is you. And once we understand I am not this machine, once we understand that, then we realize actually nothing's happening to me. Nothing's actually happening to me. I am inside this machine, uninjured, and with no problem. I become attached. Let's say, so for example, someone breaks your heart. This is really, in human life, the first initiation. When your heart is broken. And so, I mean, what happens? It means I'm dreaming that I am this body. I'm dreaming someone else is their body. And now it's like the two robots, the two machines. So these two machines are interacting. And inside the machines are these little drivers, like pushing buttons, like the arm goes up. I love you. And so it's like, I mean, imagine people who are like really kind of sick and they're both tractor drivers And so they just, they make their shovels kiss and everything, their tractor shovels. And they're just... So the point is that when we understand that we're not the body, then real life begins. It's like, let the good times roll, that old song. That's when real life starts. That's when the real party starts happening.
Can I follow with another?
Sure, no extra charge.
Did you have a profound moment, like that you really felt the supreme godness?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I'll tell you about one such moment. I mean, I had many, but yeah, all the time. When I first, this is like really scary. When I first moved into a Hare Krishna temple, that was in 1969, and somehow Krishna kind of pushed me into the temple. And I was a student in Berkeley, and my first day there, I was just walking up the stairs to the brahmachari room, and there was a big portrait of Krishna, and I just looked at the picture of Krishna, and suddenly there was Krishna, and I became so ecstatic. I was like beside myself in bliss. I mean, I wasn't crazy. And I remember I ran to the street. I was literally stopping cars in the street, telling them to chant Hare Krishna. And I wouldn't recommend that we do this every day as a regular Sankirtan practice, but I mean, I went, I was calling on the phone everyone I knew. I was just like so ecstatic. And the thing is, you could say, well, how do you know this wasn't psychologically? Okay, English. How do you know this wasn't just psychological? And in various ways. Number one, the effect of this ecstatic experience was that I became more sane. In other words, the effect of this experience of Krishna is I became more self-controlled, less selfish, more reasonable in my behavior, in the sense of more conscious on objective grounds of what was healthy and unhealthy, whether it was in my food, whether it was in my behavior, in everything, in my relationships. And it led me to a permanent state of greater happiness. And so, I mean, if you make a list of all the objective indicators of mental health, there's a branch of psychology, Maslow was into this writer named Maslow, right? Jewish. So, and so Maslow, he was actually a professor of Giriraj Swami at Brandeis University, which is the Jewish university in America. Anyway, so he was famous because Freud wanted to look at sick people. The sicker the better. And so Maslow said, hey, why don't we look at healthy people? I mean, of course, we should help people that have problems, but why not look at the people who are emotionally the most healthy, the strongest, the most, just good people, and try to figure out what are they doing right, not just what are these people doing wrong, what are these people doing right? And that kind of launched a whole new area of psychology. As you may know, there are more branches of psychology than there are stars in the sky. But so this launched an important new branch of psychology, which was focusing on health, the positive. And so take any list you like. Like Barshabanabi was praised, actually, by psychologists, isn't it?
Yes.
So if you use any social science list of symptoms, characteristics, qualities of people who are emotionally healthy, and I would say that I was definitely, I can't say I had all those qualities, but it definitely was pushing me towards mental health, not towards mental illness. And so, yeah, lots of experiences. Actually, I can tell you one more little story. Should I tell it?
Yes.
Well, obviously you're going to say yes. By saying, should I tell it? I was trying to have you encourage me to tell it. But that's actually why I joined the Hare Krishna movement. I mean, this story. I've told the story before, but this is a true story because, as you may have noticed by now, I'm not like the big mystic type. I'm more like rational. But I do have my little collection of mystic experiences. In 1969, the summer of Prem, in 1969, I was living at home in Beverly Hills with my family, and therefore forced to be sort of sane and sober, because I was living with my family. And so in the summer of '69, I began visiting the Krishna temple, Hare Krishna temple in Los Angeles, which was then La Cienega Boulevard. And so I loved the philosophy. That's what really attracted me, was the metaphysics, the ontology, the idea of like beta, one and different. When I read that, that we're one with God but different from God. When I read that, I was lying on the couch, in the living room, just reading this, Prabhupada's Gita. I can't remember ever reading anything sitting down or standing up. I was always just like on a couch reading it in the suburbs in LA. And so when I read that, I just shouted out, "Eureka!" I just knew, because I'd been exposed to monism, I'd been exposed to dualism. I just knew, Eureka! We're one with God, we're different from God. Qualitatively one, quantitatively different. So then, but still, and so I loved prasadam, I loved the devotees, I loved the philosophy, the chanting, but I didn't want to join an institution. Because it was, for one thing, it was just too much trouble. I was from Southern California, and if something's a lot of trouble, you don't do it. And so I just thought, nah, I don't want to join. I'll just chant Hare Krishna, I'll visit, I'll be a friend of the devotees, and just live my life. And then one night I went to sleep, and I just woke up in the middle of the night, and Krishna revealed himself to me in a particular way. It was actually a visual revelation of Krishna in a particular way. And I guess I should tell you the truth. I woke up, because I'm not mystical, I'm rational, but I woke up and I saw in front of me this jeweled crown, like the crown of Krishna. True story. And I just woke up and I said, "Krishna," and then this crown began to glow like very brilliantly. And I knew it was Krishna. So I just said, "All right, I'll join," and then I went back to sleep. That was a Jewish response. All right, I'll do it. So, apart from very special experiences, and of course there's more, but apart from special experiences, it's just the experience of growing spiritually, of becoming much more Krishna conscious and becoming free from all those habits or attachments that you don't really want because they're not good for you. Like, I don't want to be attached to this person and suffer, but I can't get over my attachment. And yet, so you get over those things. I mean, for example, well, this is kind of getting, anyway, when I joined the movement, I joined the movement, it had been like several months since I was in a relationship with a young lady, and then it didn't work for one thing because I was like amazingly immature, and anyway, both of us now realize we were whatever. we're still friends, but anyway, so I was suffering from that because it's not that I wanted, I realized that I couldn't be in that situation, but it's just it's the suffering because you become attached and everything, and it was and I remember as a young guy just like struggling with that pain and struggling with that attachment. And then I joined the movement. It's like, Hare Krishna. I was just happy. And it's not that I didn't respect or like that person. It's just that all that suffering was gone. And that's exactly what Rupa Goswami says in the Nectar of Devotion. When you really give yourself to Krishna, you just transcend all these things. And then throughout life, we just grow. You grow. It's an amazing experience because my body, and I'll have to tell you this because nothing you can see would ever indicate this to you, but my body's actually aging. Take my word for it. Believe me, There's no evidence, external evidence of it. So my body is aging, and at the same time, my soul is. That's called camera ball. So, so even as the body is aging, because I am more and more awakening my real self, and I'm eternally youthful. And this is not just an older person, trying to talk himself into something. You're only as old as you feel. Well, no, actually, physically, you're old as it says on your birthday. But anyway, as I'm becoming younger, and I'm more and more experiencing my real self, and I'm eternally young, I'm actually becoming. This is the real youth, not just the, what do they call it, hormone-driven madness of my physical youth, but the real youth. And it's funny, because I had an experience the other day at the Aqueduct, which is now an official japa site, officially designated japa site, the Aqueduct. So I was there, and there was this young American girl, well, young, everyone's young to me now, but there was this American lady who's talking to an Israeli man. They were just talking, typical thing, visiting country. Yeah, here's my email, I can show you around or something. So, and I heard she was speaking English, American English. So I said, hey, where are you from? She said, California. Oh, California. So we started talking, and then I was, explaining to her some things about Krishna consciousness and other things about writing. And so she was so grateful. She said, oh, this is so great that you're helping me in this way. And he said, and you're like a father figure. And at first I was like a little confused. And she said, oh, I just meant, and I said, no, it's all right. Your remark was age appropriate. But I actually had forgotten that I was in an older body. And so when she said that, I was trying to figure out, what was that? And then I realized, oh yeah, my body's so many years old. And so, and it just happens, because I have to remind myself how old my body is, because inside, it's just I'm experiencing this ecstatic spiritual youth. And actually, this is my real youth. It's eternal. Whereas my hormonal youth, or my bodily youth, was just, when I think back to it, it was just, I had a great life all my life. Krishna was very kind, and I always had a really great life, but this is the real thing. This is the real youth. So it's funny, because as you chant Hare Krishna, the person, are going in the opposite direction as your body. And because that's happening, it becomes more and more obvious that you're not the body. When you're a young devotee, you feel young because you are young, your body's young, and your soul is young, so you just sort of, it's kind of, they get mixed up. But as you get older, like when I look at pictures of myself, it's like, it's kind of traumatic. I look at pictures, oh my God, who is that? So as your body gets older, if you're chanting Hare Krishna, it becomes more and more obvious that you're not the body, because it's a total non-match. So yes, when I was a young brahmachari in Berkeley, in say 1969, I was 20 years old, and I used to always, I was so enthusiastic to teach Krishna consciousness. I used to literally stand in front of the door and not let people out until they bought a Bhagavad Gita. Before you think that I was like a crazy religious man. It was all done in good fun. I was laughing, the people were laughing. It was all like, everyone was having a good time. It wasn't like crazy religious fanatic. But I was just having such a great time, and the idea that you can practice a spiritual process where you'll become happier and happier forever. You'll become more and more happy, blissful forever. I just thought, such a deal. So, Prabhupada, when I first went, I was saying the other day somewhere, when I took sannyas in 1972, and then I decided I want to go teach in the universities or preach in the universities. And Prabhupada wrote me a letter and said, please don't present Krishna consciousness as rules. It's not rules, it's philosophy. It's like, for example, let's say you hear about some amazing place in some part of the world that you want to visit. And then, okay, you really want to go there, so you've got to get a visa, you've got to get a plane ticket, you've got to check your calendar. All those things like the visa, the plane ticket, the calendar, those aren't rules. That's just the practical way to get where you want to go. It's not about following rules. It's about just being pragmatic. And this is how you get there. So in the same way, in my life, I don't see myself as following rules. I see myself as just practically getting somewhere. And the place I want to get to is Krishna and Krishna consciousness. And so everything I can honestly say, everything I do in my life, I do for a good reason. I don't do things that I cannot reasonably explain to myself. And that's what I'm doing with my life. For example, I cooperate with other members of ISKCON, even if I think sometimes that this person is being amazing. And I do that because I know it's the rational thing to do. Number one, it's good for me to practice humility. Not that I need it, but it's a good thing to practice, to set an example for all of you. So, I mean, in previous ages, people would go into the forest and fast, and perform great, hardly ever eat, and sit there under rain and snow and just accept so much physical austerity. You don't need to do that nowadays. You just need to join a religious institution. And anyway, I'm joking. But so the idea is that I serve in a religious institution because it's good for me spiritually. Because no one is really stopping me from doing what I really need to do. And secondly, it's good for the world because I've studied for a long time the history of religion. And I know from studying the history of religion that if an institution is reasonably, it's reasonably within the boundaries, it's better to be united. It's just like in Israel, for example. Israel is a very diverse place. It's fascinating. There's people here from all over the world, and practically, from all over the world. And because there are many intelligent people here, there's all kinds of different opinions and views, and people feel strongly about things. And yet, everyone understands that we have to be united. We have to be united as a country. Because if we do not stay united at a basic level as a country, then it's going to be worse, much worse, for everyone. And so therefore, the country stays together, despite, many passionate disagreements on things, because it's the right thing to do. So in the same way, it's the right thing to do to preserve unity among the relatively tiny number of people in the world who understand Prabhupada and who understand Krishna. And also, it's like there's different orbits. It's like there's a solar system. So in that system, the closest planet is Mercury, and then what is it, Venus and Earth and Mars, and anyway, I won't give you an astronomy thing here, and so in the same way, we should have, as far as possible, a very positive, loving relationship with everyone. I mean, some people really probably hate us for problems of their own. But among just any normal, sane person, we should have a good, positive friendship with everyone. What orbit they're in, whether it's, just like in your life. If you think of all the people you know, some of them are very intimate. Some people would give their life for you, and you would give their life for them. And then, then there's the next level and the next level. Some people you're very close to, you would, they're the closest people. So every one of us has a system of orbits, and really, actually the secret of having a happy life is keep every relationship in the right orbit. Some people, are too close and some people are too far away. But if everybody's in the right orbit, you'll have a great life. So in that sense, we have to be united. Like for example, we live in Israel. It's in everyone's interest that Israel be strong and united. It's in the interest of the devotees. It's very much, because Israel is this island of religious freedom in a part of the world where there's not a lot of it, or hardly any of it. And so it's very much in the interest of the Vaishnavas that Israel be strong and united. Our lives depend on it. And we're not ungrateful to people who are giving their lives to protect our freedom to chant Hare Krishna. Because that's really the case. I mean, you're a soldier, right? Yeah, I mean the people, for example, in the military, they're literally risking their lives, sometimes giving their life, not you, risking their lives, and sometimes giving their life, ultimately protecting our right to chant Hare Krishna. And if you ask these people, they may not like Krishna or they may not like us, but they will say, yes, I believe in freedom and we're fighting for freedom. Many of them will say that. Anyway, let's not be overly cynical. Let's be generous here. But therefore, we are citizens in this country, and we should be grateful. I'm grateful to the people that plant all the oleander flowers in Caesarea. They're really nice. It's going to smell like vanilla. I'm grateful that the fact that there's, when I come to Israel, that there's all these beautiful arrangements, flowers planted everywhere, walking paths. I feel grateful for that. Like when I discovered this new path, I'm exploring, all the walking paths, 3-mile radius. And so when I discovered this really nice path going to Or Akiva, I was like, yay, this is a really good walking path. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the walking path. I'm grateful for the flowers. I'm grateful for the people that made the national park, in Caesarea. Because you learn something, it enriches your life. It gives you, for example, for a devotee, you see the ancient history and you realize how time passes and how these people had this, they built this world-class deep water harbor in Caesarea, which back then was the equivalent of let's say, an intercontinental airport. And Israel is situated as it is in the middle of 3 continents, Africa, Asia, and Europe. It really boosted international trade. Israel became very prosperous, and then and then everything collapsed. And so we learn from that. We learn from mistakes. Like someone had the bright idea of attacking the Roman Empire, and so we actually learn from these things. And you get a sense of time. You realize how temporary the world is. You realize how short human life is. Like the Bible says, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. And so when I've been a few times to the national park in Caesarea, and I felt that it gave me some wisdom. I really felt I learned something. And so I'm grateful to the people that made that park. I'm grateful for many things in Israel. I'm glad that, and not speak of the devotees. So even in Israel, apart from the gratitude we feel to each other, we have a lot to be grateful for in Israel and many other countries, and not only this country. And as devotees, we should not be creeping of misers, where you're not a devotee, I don't feel grateful to you, you're just some non-devotee, that whatever you did for the worst possible selfish reasons, and therefore I'm only grateful to Krishna. That attitude is like, it's not what you'd call a beautiful mind, the name of that movie. And so we should be generous, we should be grateful. We should, the more we appreciate other people, the more they will appreciate us. it's like when I came here, I'm from California and a lot of parts of America, so when I go for my walk in the morning, I just say hello to everybody. And people are saying, well, we don't do that in Israel. But I thought, I don't care. That's what I do. American can do. And so I walk around Kesari every day and up and down the paths and see all the locals. And, and now they're all, they all say hello to me and they smile and, so they've got this whole rasa going in Kesaria. So the point is, even Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he reciprocates. If God reciprocates, we have to reciprocate. So if you want to be respected, respect other people. If you want to be admired, admire other people. If you want to be loved, love other people. After all, we're supposed to be, we are, technically, we're devotees. We have to create that reciprocation. We can't wait for them. The real duty, our real duty, this is what the Sankirtan movement actually is. It means to go out in the world and initiate loving reciprocation with other people. That's what the Sankirtan movement really is. Like I said, I'm having a great time in Kesari. I know different people. You wave and say hello, and now they're saying hello to me before I say it. I guess I just have that vibe. It's just my nature. Like I wave to truck drivers. It's just because we're all just souls. And so like in America, and so like in Israel, I wave some truck drivers, they honk their horn and wave and everything. And because I really like the people. I've gotten to a point in my life, I'm not blind. I know this is a member of the Hare Krishna movement. This is not a member of the Hare Krishna. I know that. But the real point is, by Prabhupada's mercy, by Prabhupada's kindness, and by the power of the holy name, I just like people. There's too many very religious people that just don't like other people. And so, I just like the people. So when I'm walking down the little path and smelling the oleander flowers and in my little California bubble, when people are walking, I just like them. Why do I like them? Because they're souls. And the thing of devotee, non-devotee, yes. But that's on the outside. On the inside, we're all just souls. And I don't feel like I'm better than them. I don't feel like I'm different. I understand, he's probably not even vegetarian. I understand these things. But the point is, on a deeper level, on a spiritual level, I just think, it's just, we're all people, we're all souls, and we're all friends, we're all family. God is the father, God is the mother, actually, is what Krishna says. And so we're all family. It's like seeing someone in your family. When I go back in California, and I have a really nice family, they're not devotees, but, I'll have the last laugh in the sense that, they're good souls and they'll make it. They're sincere, they'll get to God. And so when I go there, it's just like, you just treat them like family, because how else are you going to treat them? Even Prabhupada. I was with Prabhupada in Kolkata. Now they've freed themselves from these colonial names, even though the British actually founded the city of Calcutta. But anyway, so it's Kolkata, and I was with Prabhupada one time, and he was just sort of making these rounds. He was going around and visiting some of his old friends. And one devotee said, oh, you're going to see this person because he's a devotee? And Prabhupada said, no, he's my old friend. And so Prabhupada went around, and of course for me, I was in total awe of Prabhupada. It's like, as we walked up the stairs, it's Calcutta, walked up the stairs, some apartment, as an old friend of Prabhupada, and they embraced. And I was thinking, oh my God, that person touched a pure devotee, and he's not a pure devotee. And obviously I was a little silly, but Prabhupada, in other words, he was a gentleman. Prabhupada was once asked, what is the symptom of a devotee? Prabhupada said he's a perfect gentleman. If you don't love people, they're not going to love you. If you don't respect them, if you can't see all the beautiful things in Israel, first of all, you're blind. And secondly, if you don't admire the country, the people, how will they admire you? And so it's actually our responsibility. It's our responsibility to initiate these friendly, loving relationships. Not as a tactic. Yeah, when you go to sell the book, tell them that, hey, I like your shirt. It's not... We're not talking about tactics. We're talking about higher consciousness. When you really like people, you really see the good in them. In fact, it's because you see the good in them, they will see the good in themselves. When you see God in people, they will begin to see God in themselves. And so that's the job description for a teacher of Krishna consciousness. That's the job description. And Prabodhananda Saraswati, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, wrote a book in which he says that for a devotee, Vishwam Purna Sukhayate, the universe is just full of happiness. Now, we may not all be Paramahamsas. However, that's where we're going. So you can, like Prabhupada said, in other yoga systems, you don't really know where you stand. But in Bhakti Yoga, you can tell how advanced you are. That's how you can tell how advanced you are in Krishna consciousness. How much you love other people. How much you really see them. You see the good in them. You see them as devotees. Because how will they see themselves as a devotee if you don't see them that way? How will they understand that they are really lovers of God if you don't see them that way? If you see them as just some unfortunate non-devotee, they're going to see you as some unfortunate devotee. If you think these are losers, guess what they're going to think? You are a total loser. If someone comes up and says you're a jerk, what's the first thing you say? You're a jerk. You're a bigger jerk. Because you just said that to me. And so the point is that the non-devotees, they're not that dumb. And they know what you think about them. They know what we think about them. If you're with someone else, you know what they think about you. They may act nice, but if someone really doesn't respect you, you know it. If someone doesn't really like you, they know it. So, if we like people, they'll like us. If we don't like people, they won't like us. It's like a child. If you have a child, even if your child is, screaming or acting badly or just does crazy, but it's your child. You love your child. And so, the parents, that's not the point. The point is, it's my child. And so if we really see these people as spirit souls, all of their non-Krishna conscious behavior, attitudes, we see that it's superficial. Otherwise, what really happens, frankly, in a neophyte devotee is that in real, practical, emotional terms, we see their spiritual part as superficial. Yeah, that's just what the philosophy says. But what really gets to us emotionally on a real level is that you're not a devotee. Or you're this or you're that. Whereas as we advance, their materialism becomes superficial and their real spiritual nature is what we care about and what really moves us. So that's what it takes. It's like Gunavatar and Varshabhani have done such great service. That's a symptom of advanced Krishna consciousness. When people can bring other people to Krishna. And so that's really what it takes. That's really what it takes. We have to, like I said, I think Israel is a great country. Obviously there are problems, there are political problems, and, I won't tell you how I would have voted if I could have voted. Mm-hmm. But What I'm saying is, every country has major problems. You go to any country in the world, you will find major problems. We're in the material world. However, there's so many beautiful things here. There's so much to admire in this country. There's so much to appreciate. There's so many good people. And if we really feel that, they'll start to feel that way about us. Yes?
Maybe you should teach us how to love Netanyahu. It will solve all the problems.
It will not help. We will not love you.
All you need is love. As far as political situations and all those things, I would say that some people we love at a distance. To love someone doesn't mean to be indifferent if you believe that someone is causing suffering to others. And I'm not commenting on the government here because I don't want to publicly comment on a foreign government. But the point is that people in Israel are not directly, immediately the cause of all kinds of trouble for other people. And we just have to see the good. We just have to see the good. It doesn't mean we give up our judgment, our discrimination. We still have brains. We still know what's what. We still know what's right and wrong. But when we go out to people, we should, even a political leader, if, let's say, you have the opportunity to speak to that person, let's say you walked into the room to speak to that person, and if you're thinking in your mind, I despise you, it's not going to be a great conversation. So sure, you may privately have your views, and as a responsible citizen, you should have your views in a sense on what's right and wrong. But in terms of outreach, I'm talking about when you're directly in contact with other people. So whether it's the president or this or prime minister or this person or that person, when we are directly in touch with other people, we have to somehow or other find Krishna in those people. It doesn't mean we approve of their behavior. It doesn't mean we're blind. It just means that we have to try to help people. So, yes?
4 questions. I was asked from someone quite sincere trying to practice Krishna consciousness, what is my opinion about feeling a lottery prize? I didn't find a reasonable way to answer that.
Not to buy a lottery ticket, you mean?
Yeah.
What's the answer? Gambling is, you could say it's just an investment because the odds, of course, are completely against me, but I'm just going to buy a little ticket, not much to lose, a lot to gain, and so on and so forth. I know devotees, actually, I shouldn't say it, but they buy lottery tickets. So, I don't buy lottery tickets. Sometimes it's better just not to get into something, because when you look at the 4 activities that we avoid, gambling, etc., is one of them. These activities tend to be addictive. To give you an example of how meat eating is addictive and makes people completely irrational, this whole environment, there's a whole environmental movement. They're about to have a big international environmental meeting in Paris. And the leaders of countries are coming. It's this huge thing. And yet, they absolutely refuse to talk about the biggest problem of the environment, which is the cattle industry. According to the United Nations, the pollution from cattle raising, the methane and toxic gases, causes more greenhouse gases than all of the motorized vehicles on Earth. That is cars, trucks, planes, trains, boats, everything. The number 1 pollutant is not factories, is not cars, it is actually animal slaughter. And yet they absolutely will not talk about it. There was a documentary movie which you can find on YouTube. What was the name of it? Cow. I forgot the name of it. What was the name of that movie? Cowspiracy. C-O-W-K. In which this guy who makes the movie actually goes around and interviews like these big environmental leaders and asks them about this fact, and they won't talk about it. They're like embarrassed, or they say, I refuse to talk about it. They refuse to talk about the main environmental problem. Why? Because they are addicted to brutality and murder and meat eating. And so you can see, even to save the planet, they won't talk about it. That is an addiction. And there are sex addictions. Obviously, we know that. There are many 12-step programs for people with sex addictions, meat addictions, gambling addictions, and not to speak of drugs and liquor and all that. And so these 4 activities are, we give up these 4 activities not because it's some religious rule, but objectively, because it leads to addiction. And it leads to destructive behavior. Self-destructive and destructive other people. People that gamble many times ruin their families. They ruin their families, and meat eating destroys so many innocent lives. Intoxication, same thing. People destroy their lives through drugs. Alcohol, they cause terrible suffering to their loved ones. And because of sex. Frankly, because of sex addiction, people damage their own children. People get involved in adultery. They leave their husbands and wives because they become sexually attracted to another person. The children, it causes terrible suffering. So, the fact that someone would choose to do something knowing that according to social science, not some religious morality, according to social science, it is very likely this will significantly damage your children. And people do it. And they do it a lot. It doesn't hurt their family, doesn't hurt that person, whatever. It's not, it's not a big deal. So, obviously there are there's a scale of, you could say sinful activity, or you could use a different word, you could say harmful activity. And you could say on that scale, maybe buying a lottery ticket is not the biggest deal in the world. But in a strict spiritual life, because it is an addictive activity, it's better not to get into it, because it starts to affect your other behavior. And so why begin that psychological chain of events? I think that's the real point. So maybe we'll stop here. We have a little sweet. Actually, we don't have it because I didn't do anything to get you the sweet. But I think that there is going to be, right? Some little show. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Everyone, please come for just a moment. Ollie, come here. Allow me to embarrass you. Okay, when I go like this, it means smile. I want to introduce you all to a very, very wonderful Vaishnavi. Ali Krishna Devi Dasi. Smile, Ali. She is originally from Buffalo, New York. And she actually created and has in its present form and is managing our main Krishna West website. And she is actually one of the founders of Krishna West with me. And she's a wonderful young lady. And I think she's having a great time in Israel, isn't it?
Yes.
Say yes, Ollie. And so she's an independent thinker. Actually, Ollie and I, she's a wonderful disciple, and so I hope you all get to know her. And Venu Gita. Smile, Venu Gita. it's not true that, Hare Krishna gurus try to control people. And so Venu Gita is actually doing a great service because she's making these high quality films, and people all around the world are writing to me and they really appreciate it. All of you are actually becoming famous. Because literally, thousands of people are hearing about Harish and hearing about the programs. And the one thing that everyone says to me when they write is that they look like such nice devotees. It looks like such a nice program. Oh, I should tell you this, Gunavatar, that we're very close friends. Yeah, okay, I'll go there. See what I'm going to do there. But when he saw the film of you, when he saw all of you, he just said, I really want to go there. And so the Harish community is really becoming famous. Thousands of devotees are learning about it. And one thing we want to do with Ollie, one of the and Venu Gita is to interview many of you. All of you with the Gunavatar and Varshabhanavi, and you can all figure out, how to do this. But we actually want to make some films to basically to glorify the Harish community around the world, so that. And I'm going to do it, for 10% under my normal guru rate. Of course, that will be based on a certain volume, and you'll have to. But that's really our idea, because it is a wonderful community, and even like Tarani, yes, Tarani, and your family. These beautiful young ladies and this handsome young man, and your mother and your father. Really, it's a very beautiful, and there are many beautiful. So, and also we thought Sham, and not only your family and all of you really. So. We want to. The Mormons are doing something which is very, very popular, and that is they just have these little short things about people. People want to know about people, and so my desire is I want the world to know about this wonderful community, and because there's tremendous interest. Everyone that writes to me, they all say they really like the people, like they look like such good devotees, and they look so interesting, and so Ollie's going to be working with Gunavatar Varshabhanavi and Venu Gita. Figure out something, according to your. But it's a great idea, I think. Not just because I thought of it. I sometimes even think other people have good ideas. So, anyway, so Ollie's going to be here for 8 days, or till the 19th, right?
Next Friday.
Till next Friday, till next Shabbat, and so please, I'd really be grateful for as many of you as possible to meet her and talk to her, and she would love to meet all of you. And because she is doing our main Krishna West media, digital presence, and also Tarani and other devotees here have some great ideas how we can actually improve that. And so, Harish has been a great blessing for us, and please welcome Ollie. That wasn't too painful. So, Hare Krishna, and Shabbat Shalom.
Like some candle.
So I guess I better get back to the Ponderosa. You know that old, you don't know that old cowboy who did what's it called? Bonanza. Where gurus live, they call it the Ponderosa.
Ponderosa?
Like Ponderosa. Anyway. Well, also we'll bring you some of these in jail.
If it goes through security.
Hey, thank you for coming. You play basketball? Hey, Shama, next time we play basketball, you have to bring her too.
Going on the league now.
Oh, really?
Next year, joining the